Remember that scene in Forrest Gump where a very young Forrest gets on the school bus for the very first time, and he's walking down the aisle looking for a place to sit, and those mean old kids on the bus keep saying seats taken and can't sit here, even though there are plenty of places for him to sit. So he keeps walking down that aisle until finally a young girl named Jenny says, "You can sit here." And thus began a beautiful friendship that Forrest was loyal to for the rest of his life. Your Instagram accounts and your other social media channels are a lot like that scene. We all know that those kids on the bus and a lot of people in Forrest's life treated him like an outcast because he was different. Now, the question that you have to answer is, when it comes to followers and other consumers who have differences that cause them to not so cleanly fit into what is considered to be mainstream, does your Instagram account and social channels treat them like those mean kids on the bus, or does it behave more like Jenny? As a business, you are constantly sending signals to the customers who interact with your work along every part of your customer journey. And really, those signals boil down to one of two things. Either you're saying you belong here, or you're saying this isn't for you. The challenge is that far too businesses send the "this isn't for you" signal specifically and most often to diverse and niche consumers who have at least one difference, because they don't know how to deal with them. And as a result, those customers leave. They don't stick around. They go off in search of another brand who will help them and who will make them feel like they belong. They do that because business is about belonging, and people stick around where they feel like they are welcome and they have a place and they feel seen and they feel gotten. I know firsthand about being frustrated and not being seen and not being cared for by brands because I've got a lot of differences. My name is Sonia Thompson, and I am a customer experience strategist and consultant. But I'm also a Black woman. I live in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I've got a Spanish-speaking husband. We've got a mixed race daughter. I follow a gluten-free diet. I dance Argentine tango, and I'm left-handed. I got a lot of differences that frankly have caused me to be frustrated a lot of times when I've been interacting with businesses. Being different is hard. So as you think about how you want to send the right signals to niche and diverse consumers as a way to, one, do the right thing and treat them well, but also as a way to grow your business and close any leaky bucket that you might have as a result of inadvertently pushing them away, follow these 5 steps to be more inclusive in your marketing. Step number 1 is to expand your circle of influence. Now, there is this scientific principle called homophily, which really just explains the common phrase, birds of a feather flock together. In essence, what it says is that most people have networks of people who look like them, who have similar backgrounds, experiences, ideas, and ways of thinking as them. The challenge is whenever you surround yourself with people who are pretty much a lot like you end up living inside of a bit of an echo chamber where everyone is talking about the same things, or watching the same things on TV, following the same Instagram accounts, referencing and laughing at the same jokes. It's all the same, and it makes it harder for you to be able to empathize with, be aware of, and just imagine what life is like for other people who are different from you, who have different ways of thinking, who have different backgrounds, who are from different countries, different cultures, or just who have a different ideological way of living their life. So a way to fix this is to start diversifying the types of people that you're listening to. Now, for instance, my mom had growing up, just for most of her life, didn't have anybody in her world who had any type of dietary restriction either by choice or just because they had to, for medical reasons. And because of that, she just kind of went on and made the things that we all loved, and that, whatever she felt like. Now, me and my sister, in recent years, both of us have become gluten-free because of health reasons. And as a result, my mom is now aware of these restrictions that we have. So she always wants to make sure that we're included whenever we come to her house. So anytime she's at the grocery store, she's on the hunt for gluten-free goodies and ingredients that we can use. Whenever we're there, she will cook different meals for us if necessary, or she will make sure that she's changing out some of the ingredients of some of our favorite foods so that we can be welcome and not feel like we have to eat before we come over. When we all go out to restaurants as a family, me and my sister will actually at the request of my parents, choose the restaurant so we can make sure that we are choosing an option as a group that works for me and my sister. She's now knows how to accommodate us and to still make us feel like we belong despite our dietary differences, because now she has an awareness of a lifestyle and people who aren't like her when it comes to the food and what types of things they're able to eat. We're able to eat. And now she's able to better serve us and send us the right signals that makes us want to stick around and come around as often as we want to. When it comes to your business, you can do the same thing as you start to reach out to other people to diversify the inputs that you have in terms of the way you think and view the world. You can start this on Instagram, super easy, by starting to follow people who are different from you. Follow people outside of your niche. Follow people who are in your niche, who've got a completely different way of operating than you do. Follow people who just kind of are taking on the world and thinking about things in a different way that are different from the way you're used to operating and behaving. Follow people who are just completely opposite of you, and you will start to learn a lot of different things. So follow them, observe them, learn from them, engage with them, build relationships with over time. And I guarantee you, the more you do this, your marketing will get better as a result, and you will be much better equipped to start attracting diverse customers. All right, step number 2 is to reevaluate your buyer personas. All right, so I've got a very complicated relationship with scissors. This all happened because when I was growing up in elementary school, I had to cut scissors with my right hand, and my paper always looked a hot mess. That's because I'm left-handed, and left-handed scissors back then, whenever you were using a pair of scissors, they were for the most part designed for people who were right-handed. Eventually, I switched to using scissors with my right hand, but that still looked a hot mess because I wasn't very skilled in doing things with my right hand. So why did this happen? Eventually people kind of got to the point to where they started making scissors where it didn't matter which hand you were using them with. That was a win for all, and it was a total game changer. But why did we have these challenges way back whenever I was in elementary school? It's because the people who were making these scissors and designing them, whether it's the marketers or the engineers, probably they probably were right-handed, or they didn't interact with a lot of left-handed people. Left-handed people make up about 10% of the population. So as they were going through their buyer personas, us left-handers were just left out. As a result, the product was designed for a group of people and didn't meet the needs of another group. So as you're thinking about your buyer personas, make sure that you don't define them so narrowly so that you are automatically going to be leaving people out. Because your buyer personas impact so much of what you do from a marketing standpoint. They impact your visual imagery. They impact the type of copy that you use, even the products that you produce. So you use these buyer personas as a bit of a roadmap to help you figure out all the different things that you're going to be doing from a marketing and a product standpoint. So if your buyer personas, for instance, are too much like you and they're narrowly defined, you run the risk of leaving out a lot of people. Now, as you're thinking about how to start revising your buyer personas, make sure that you, of course, think about the psychographics and the other behavioral characteristics that are important, but don't forget the demographics, because demographics have a profound impact on the way in which people receive the messages that you send out, from the way in which they impact the world. As a result, you need to start thinking about how those demographics will need to change the way you approach reaching out to different customers. So a great way to start doing this is to make a list of all the people who have the type of problem that your business solves, and make a list of all the ways that they can be different from a demographic standpoint. And that could be in terms of gender, race, the country they live in, what language they speak, what hand they write with, if they have any dietary restrictions, what their weight is, if they're tall, if they're short, what their sexual orientation is. There are a number of ways that your customers could be different, and as you start to map those out, it can give you a better idea of the ways in which you might need to adjust your marketing. Now, the goal isn't to serve everybody, so the key is to be very intentional about who you are going to serve and who you are intentionally going to be repelling away. That's the whole objective of these buyer personas, to help you serve a specific group of customers more in depth. So as you go through and intentionally choose, you will have a better idea of how you are going to serve the people and make them feel like they belong, including the people who have differences. Kevin Curry, who is the founder of Kit Fitman Cook, does this really well. I imagine that as he's gone through this process with his buyer personas, he decided that people who speak Spanish was people that he wanted to include and to target specifically with his brand and his marketing. So if you were to look at his Instagram profile, even all of his YouTube videos, you will see that all of his videos are in English, but they've got Spanish subtitles written below. In addition, if you look at his Instagram posts, they're written all in English and then they've got the Spanish below. Gary Vaynerchuk does this as well. If you look at his Instagram accounts, he has also started to be more inclusive of people who speak different languages. So now he's got a Spanish language Instagram channel, a Chinese language, a French, Portuguese, even a Polish language Instagram channel. So both Kevin and Gary are now able to be more inclusive and attract thousands of more people, tens of thousands of more followers of their work, because they've started to be more inclusive, particularly as it relates to people who speak a different language other than English. Step number 3 is to make representation a priority. All right, so a couple of years ago, I was perusing through Instagram and I came across a post from an influencer that I follow. And she was talking a lot about, she had a sponsored post, it was an ad in her feed where she was talking about these comfortable, stylish travel clothes. And I was in a shopping mood and I love to travel. And I was like, I need some comfortable and stylish clothes. So I whipped out my credit card and I clicked through to the account of the brand that she had mentioned in her post. And immediately I put my credit card away. As I looked through the photos on the account, and I went through the entire account and looked at all the photos, after I initially saw that no one looked like me, not even remotely close. And it definitely sent the signal that this brand isn't for you. You don't belong here. And my feelings were hurt because it just felt like the brand didn't consider me in any way as it was reflected in the imagery that they were producing. Representation matters, and your customers, your followers, your audience, the people that you are engaging with need to see themselves or who they aspire to be in the visual imagery that your brand produces. If they don't see themselves, they will end the relationship or end the process with you right away. If they do see themselves reflected, it gives them permission to take the next step forward with you. David's Bridal does this really well. Their website is fantastic, and if you look at their Instagram account, you'll see lots of other great things that they're doing in terms of their representation. They've got Black couples, they've got white couples, they've got same-sex couples, they've got mixed race couples, they've got tall people, short people, they've got older models, they've got young models, they've got people with disabilities. They've run the gamut of all the different types of people that they are representing who've got the problem that they solve. And as a result, they've got a broad range of customers who come to get their wedding dresses and their bridal accessories. So make sure that your visuals, everything that you put forth, is representative of the people that you want to serve. Now, this is inclusive even if you've got a personal brand where all the photos on your accounts are of you. There are other ways where you can be representative and showcase diversity and signal to diverse consumers that they belong with you. On Instagram in particular, you can include other people in your IGTV. You can do interviews. You can in your stories, you can incorporate other people whose work that you admire, who you're collaborating with, who you are following, who's just interesting. There are a number of ways where you can be representative and showcase the work of other people, even if the majority of your photos on your feed are of you. Now, another thing is to make sure that you don't just go out and start throwing up a bunch of stock photography of diverse customers. That's not the best way to go about doing it. It's a good first step if that's all you have, but ideally where you want to get to is to show people who you've got relationship with or who you've interacted with, whether they're customers, partners, whatever, people that you admire, and show those photos with them. It's much more authentic. You'll get you a longer way to showcase what's really happening in your business and what you really value. But if stock photography is all you've got, start there with a plan to do better. All right, step 4 is to commit to cultural intelligence. Well, a couple of years ago, I went home to Florida to visit my parents, and I went to a tango class. And the way that group tango classes work, most group dance lessons work, is that you'll learn the lesson and then you will rotate partners throughout the night. You'll rotate around to different people so you can practice the steps or whatever you've learned in the class with different people. So one thing to note, a week before I had gone to this tango class, I had gotten my hair done and I had it in and braided up to. So I got to this one gentleman, I rotated over to him, and I'd never met him before, and he says, "I like your weave." I had a visceral negative reaction to this comment. There's a couple of problems with this. One, how do you know that I'm wearing a weave and that all of the hair that he saw me with wasn't my own hair? One. Two is, that's not something that you ever say to somebody. "I like your weave" is the equivalent of saying, "Hey, I like your breast implants. I like your nose job. I like your wig. I like your Botox that you just got. Your doctor did a fabulous job." Like, these are things that you just don't say to people, especially to people that you've just met. And the problem is that a lot of brands behave just like this guy did. They reach out and they try to interact with diverse customers and niche customers with a very superficial understanding of who they are and what they're about and what's important to them. And as a result, the messaging that they produce comes off as awkward, tone deaf, out of touch, and in a lot of cases offensive. As a result, there are tons of brands who've had to cut off marketing campaigns, like ditch whole product lines that they've introduced because they were culturally insensitive. And then they introduce these apologies that say, "We're sorry, we didn't mean to offend, we had no idea, that wasn't our intention, we value diversity and inclusion." But the way in which you demonstrate your commitment to diversity and inclusion and to other cultures is by engaging in cultural intelligence. And you do that by focusing on increasing your level of customer intimacy, no matter where you are. So even if your team doesn't have a great degree of cultural intelligence right now, don't use that as an excuse. You can start to develop it by spending time and building relationships so that you can get a deep understanding of the plight of the people that you are trying to reach, and understand more about what it is that you should say and what it is that you shouldn't say, and when to say it and when not to say it. The more you spend time with them, the deeper your relationship is, the better your cultural intelligence will be, and the better position you'll be to start engaging. So remember, the point is to go deep. Ditch superficial. So instead of when trying to showcase your support for Black Lives Matter, instead of just saying don't just say we stand with the Black community. If you want to celebrate Black History Month, don't just throw up a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. Or if you want to celebrate Pride Month, don't just throw up rainbows. Go deeper and showcase that you've got a very long commitment to wanting to serve these communities, and do that by showcasing that you get them more than just a shallow or superficial level. Unbounce did this recently by putting up a post, a video that they created that had different people within their employees talking about what pride meant to them. It was beautiful, actually. And then Ben & Jerry's they've got a whole lot of cultural intelligence. They do a fantastic job of highlighting different issues that are important to different communities, and they do it by getting facts and figures and infusing them into their quirky brand style to, one, not only educate people on what's going on, but they are able to help activate people to be able to make positive change. But they're only able to do this because they are well versed in all the issues, and they're engaged with the communities in which they're trying to serve, and that they're in the topics and issues that they're talking about, which allows them to do cultural intelligence well. Step number 5, the last step in the process, is to audit your customer experience. Now, recently, I do this every day. Every day, I am a little bit obsessed with this. I look at the number of steps that I've taken because it counts it on my phone. So recently, when I was looking at my steps for the day, I started clicking through and I saw the average number of steps I had taken for the month. And then I looked and I saw the average number of steps that I had taken for the year. And I was over for all the different months over the course of the year. And I was a little bit surprised or taken aback because I had seen that over the last 3 months, the number of steps that I had taken were lower, which I knew they would have been lower, but I was surprised at how much they were significantly lower than all the other months. And then I started to think about it, and it totally made sense. Over the last couple of months, I had a baby, and in Argentina, we're still in quarantine, and we've been in quarantine for more than 4 months now. So that has severely limited the amount of time that I can spend outside of walking our dog. So it made sense, these numbers, but I wouldn't have recognized that there was such a drastic difference if I hadn't started to look at the data. So now, as I work to start incorporating more physical activity into my routine, I know that if I want to reach my goals, that I've got to be very intentional about increasing the amount of physical activity that I engage in, whether that's walking or doing some other things, if I want to reach my goals. The data helped me figure out where I really am so that I can make a proper plan to get where I want to go. So you've got to look at the data for the customer experience that you are delivering so that you can build a plan that helps your accounts behave like Jenny rather than those mean kids on the bus. So go through all 4 of the previous steps. Start by expanding your circle of influence, reevaluating your buyer personas, making representation a priority, and increasing your degree of cultural intelligence. And then you can, as you're doing this audit, you can start to figure out where your account is performing well and where you can use some help in particular to start delivering a better experience. So look at your bio, your IGTV, your captions, the way you respond to comments, the emojis you use, look at your stories, and even the links that you send out and direct people to, and figure out, is it stacking up with the type of experience that you want to deliver. Audit where you are, and then work on building a plan to get you to the place where you are delivering the right signals, specifically that you belong here and that you created an environment and a space that has the people that you want to serve in mind, including the people who've got differences. Now remember, this does not have to happen overnight. It is a process, and it's an ongoing process that you will continue to take as you learn more and interact with more people. But the sooner you start, the sooner you can start seeing the results you like and start attracting more of those diverse customers. Remember, business is about belonging. And whenever you create an Instagram account that demonstrates to the people that you want to serve, especially those diverse ones who so many brands ignore, you will start to see positive results whenever they start to realize and feel that they do believe that they do indeed belong with you.